Welcome to episode 20 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
What's up?
Good, y'all. What's up?
Woo-hoo. Big
It's
week.
it's a lot that's going on. It's a lot that's what's up this week.
Yeah.
First off, I want to start by saying congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines.
Yep.
Winning the national championship a couple days ago here on Monday, beating TCU. It looked like TCU, but beating Washington. The University of Washington got dominated on the ground. Blake Corum, Edwards, they both snapped. And our boy Michael Penix, what we thought was going to do well following the first performance against Texas, he did not play particularly well at all. And ultimately, Jim Harbaugh, after all of the cheating rumors, the scandal, everything that was going off, the suspension, and quite possibly his last season in college football, Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines came out on top. So I want to go ahead and give them a shout out. But, you know, as it goes with the national championship time that strikes the end of college football and also strikes the end of the NFL season. And we know, as usual, at the end of NFL season, we get Black Monday. How do y'all feel about all of these coach firings and some of the surprise openings in the NFL so far?
It's honestly crazy. I can't remember a time, honestly, and this might just be like recency bias. I don't know what it is, but I don't remember a time where it being like this many openings like this. Like it hasn't felt like this before. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know if y'all feel that same way, but it feels like, and it could be more still. We're still waiting on what the Patriots going to do with Bill. We're still waiting to see what happens in the playoffs with a couple of teams. So it's like it could be like right now it's a quarter of the league searching for head coaches this next season, and it could damn well be a third of the league in a couple weeks, which is crazy.
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, it's interesting. I guess you could say that, you know, the candidates, they got their choice. They got some good choices out there that they could pick from. If they so choose. So, I wouldn't say some of them were surprised. I mean, the one we got today, which I guess I'll go ahead and say, you know, Pete Carroll isn't the coach anymore for Seahawks. Now, that was a surprise to me. So, I mean, that'll be an interesting job to take. But for the most part, some of these coaches pretty much we knew probably was their time.
To give clarification in terms of the opening positions thus far, we've had Arthur Smith being fired from Atlanta. We had, which big surprise here, Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans. It's parting ways, and well, they phrase it as parting ways, but obviously it's Mike Vrabel was fired there. Seattle, as Chris mentioned, Pete Carroll stepping down, and it's been reported that Pete Carroll will stay with the team and become an advisor for the team. We'll see how long that lasts in terms of him getting his coaching juices flowing. We also obviously have the Chargers and the Panthers and the Raiders, who all had in-season firings, with Josh McDaniels for the Raiders, Brandon Staley for the Chargers, and obviously Frank Reich with the Panthers. So those positions have been open for a few weeks now. We also finally had the final hatchet for Ron Rivera in Washington, and he obviously got fired with the new ownership and Josh Harris looking to. And now we found out obviously Magic Johnson's a part of the ownership group, but we see that they're getting some help from the former Warriors GM, and what is his name? Brad Thompson.
Bob Myers.
Bob Myers. God, Brad Thompson. Bob Myers. Jesus. Long day. And in terms of that, number one, how do y'all feel about that? Obviously, it's crossing leagues, and he doesn't necessarily have the same experience on the NFL side. But how do you guys feel about Bob Myers being an advisor there to their coaching search?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
We've seen kind of crossovers. Like, for instance, the owner for the Saints, they own the Saints and the Pelicans. Mm-hmm. So they probably do use stuff like that in general. So, I mean, it's weird when you think about it, like especially now they're searching for a coach and you know, it's like somebody from Basketball Hub. So it does sound a little weird, but I think it's probably they probably do it often actually.
And you can tell like Bob Myers is more like well versed with sports in general. That's just how he was brought up too. I think, the question was how much involvement will he have? And it seems like, of course, it's like an advisory role. He won't have too much, say. But he's a good money guy. He knows how to balance and work the cap, and he's a smart guy. So I don't think it's too crazy, especially when you have Magic Johnson as the owner, which is probably that main link that kind of put that into motion. So I don't think it's too wild, as long as he's not like too involved in it. But they still have a lot of questions because they're still looking for, of course, what they're going to do in the rest of the front office, and then the coach, of course. So,
and obviously they said that they want Bob Myers to kind of be in the room, or help in terms of what looking for coaches that obviously are innovative, obviously coaches that have strong leadership, and coaches that would be just a true culture fit in terms of where they're trying to go, and set a standard for what they want the new Washington football, because I believe they will be changing their name. What they want the future of Washington football to look like. The only thing is that with Bob Myers is like, they built the you could say he built the Warriors dynasty, but number one, he jumped ship when the going got tough. So I would like to have seen his response there. Not to put down on him or anything like that. But not too much on Bob Myers. Aside from that, we also had an interesting situation with the New York Giants, and Wink Martindale stepping down as their defensive coordinator. Obviously, there's been rumors and reports that him and Brian Daboll have been getting into it, or didn't see eye to eye throughout the season. There was another report that came out that essentially painted that Daboll came to Wink and they had a meeting and said that they were going to fire a couple of the coaches on the staff, on the defensive staff, and Wink Martindale I supposedly cussed him out and stormed out of that meeting, and then floated that he was stepping down, even though he didn't officially resign until today. So there's a lot of drama going on in the NFL, especially with the Giants. But out of the 7 spots that I mentioned and the 7 head coaching openings, how would you guys rank it? Maybe in terms of your top 3, with the Chargers, obviously ATL, the Raiders, Panthers, so on and so forth.
I'll start because this is it's an interesting one, because kind of like you look at the Seahawks and it's like, that's a good franchise to be a part of, but you've actually like deep dive into their pieces and kind of where their direction is going to go. It really just depends on what type of coach you have in there, and that's the case for a lot of these teams. But my top 3 would be, in no order, Chargers, obviously, because you have
in order, nigga.
You want me to do it in order?
Yes.
Because he want to put Atlanta, but he
that's why he's not. Don't try to shy away. You ain't slick, nigga.
Listen. Damn, can I talk? Damn. The Falcons are definitely in my top 3, but I'll get to that. But I don't have them as the best spot, because the question mark is huge at quarterback, and that's kind of why I think the Chargers, just being in LA, it's the most important spot, I would say, because how their home games are. Having the right coach in there and moving in the right direction would gather more fans, build your fan base, and not have opposing teams run your stadium all the time. So I think the Chargers are a very intriguing spot. I would probably have them at 1. I would have Washington at 2, just because of how much open space they have and how much their coach and GM can work together to kind of build what they want to build there. That's attractive to begin with. With heavy support from ownership. And I do have the Falcons at 3. And I think, of course, the big thing there is you don't know who your quarterback is. But the other pieces are there. You got to work on the defense, especially like edge, defensive back. But as far as your offense, if you can find the right offensive mind and right quarterback to pair with that, you have your receivers, you have the running backs, you have the tight end that can make it pretty. or well, receiver. It's a place to look. So those are my top 3 though.
Okay, Chris, what say you?
I also have Chargers 1, and that's just because I feel like they have out of all the teams, they have the most like pieces to work with instead of like a coach actually coming in, having to actually rebuild, having a lot of stuff to like change over. So I think the Chargers probably number 1. Number 2, I actually got Seattle. Their transition is kind of interesting because they have gotten younger, but they still got some veterans within the building. And unlike LA, which would be a knock on them, like you said about their homestand, they got a great home crowd. I mean, it's still the 12th man. I mean, even though they're transitioning from Legion of Boom era, but I think I feel like they already started their transition. So if a new coach come in, I mean, yes, you have the question at the most important position, quarterback, but I don't think that'll be too detrimental to them trying to move forward. And third, it was kind of hard. But I do ultimately have the Falcons. The other choice would have been the Raiders, and that's specifically because they haven't been in Vegas that long, and I feel like you can create a culture there as far as a new coach coming in. But it's just for me, it's so many like open holes in their team that is like, do you really want to go and deal with that kind of aspect? So that's why I went ahead and went with the Falcons. Yeah, I mean, I think a good coach could come and make something happen out of that team.
Excuse me.
If you believe in what you believe in, then I feel like you can advance the team, I should say.
Okay. So my number 1 spot would actually be Washington. Right now Washington does have the number 2 pick.
That too.
Obviously, they also have the most cap space available thus far next season. Obviously, they have some signings, and the rookie class will take away from some of that. But on top of that, they have an extra 2nd round pick and an extra 3rd round pick in the upcoming draft. So with already having receivers, you already have 2 stud defensive tackles. You drafted a rookie cornerback in Forbes with your 1st round pick last year. Cam Curl is somebody that obviously I believe is a free agent this season. So you'll have to re-sign, but you have the makings. Obviously you have to find the right coach there, and need to pick up some edge rush. Obviously they let go Montez Sweat and Chase Young, during the season this season. But like I said, already have the receiver set, already have the running back set. And on top of that, if you decide that Sam Howell is good enough, you can trade that 1st round pick for a ransom. But I don't know if you want to do that either.
Yeah,
but
I don't think that's the move.
With my 2nd place, I'm also going to go with the Chargers. The Chargers is a tough situation because they are over the cap. So one of the things that Chris mentioned was that they'll have some, a lot of pieces for a quick rebuild, but they're also going to have to get rid of some of those pieces, such as a Keenan Allen maybe, or a Mike Williams maybe, Derwin James, Khalil Mack. Because I believe they're about $35 million over the cap right now, so they have to get under that, and obviously have enough to sign a rookie class and whatnot. So there's going to be some changes there. But ultimately, I mean, that you have the most important position in a quarterback. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. At that point in time, like, you've got Justin Herbert.
You got your start point.
You're still in a position where I believe they're number 6 in the draft order right now. So they can get a blue chip player. We've seen Malik Neighbors mock there a bunch of times. So, I mean, that would be beautiful. Malik Neighbors, QJ, and Keenan Allen next year. But from number three is tough because you do have the Falcons that have a good defense, but right now they don't. From looking at it, they really don't have a path to getting a quarterback this upcoming year. In terms of, I mean, there's a small chance that they're going to be able to trade up, and on top of the free agent crop, I mean, you're looking at Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, those groups. I mean, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Not sure if you feel too great about that. And then Seattle, it would probably be between those 2 teams, and I'm going to have to rock with Seattle just because in the immediate future, the Falcons do not have something that they're in a rough position. But Seattle, they still have Geno, so they do have time where they can try to go all in this year, which is once again highly unlikely to get into a position to get a Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, or a Drake May. But you do have next year if you want to, you do have the ability to trade back and go next year, and you already have the pieces with the receivers. Obviously, they have two good running backs. The defensive backfield, we do have Devin Witherspoon. He might even be the defensive rookie of the year. He'll definitely be top 3 in the voting. Tariq Woolen, obviously, we've seen what he done. And in terms of their defense as a whole, they've got players, they've got pieces. They need to shore up the middle because Bobby Wagner, don't know how he made the Pro Bowl, but no disrespect. But,
He lead the league in tackles.
It's crazy.
That boy ain't moving right. So I would go with Seattle number 3, and then obviously with the Falcons a close number 4. But go ahead.
I would have it flip. I get what you're saying though with immediate, able to contend, but I would say that is more the case for the Falcons. So if you're looking at a head coach that's come in and these aren't teams that are going to rebuild based off what they have on their rosters, I think being in that division also helps. Having that third place schedule in that division will definitely help going into this next year. So that's kind of why I have it up as well. If you're a coach looking at it and say, I can go there, get 10 wins, win the division, and really start my campaign.
I don't know about 10
good.
wins though. That's the thing.
It's possible if you find the right quarterback. And then also you get to choose your quarterback instead of inheriting Geno Smith, which you might not want to do. It's a lot of more questions there, but you get to choose it. Like it's hard. There's not a clear path at 8 where they are currently, but you do get to choose what you want to do a little bit more there. I feel like in the cap space that you have. But yeah, I mean it's close. Like I don't think they're either of them are bad.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be so. Today, how are you guys feeling in terms of where you see what coach out of those top 3, out of your own personal top 3s, what coach would you like to see in that position for that team today?
That's a tough one. I mean, of course, there's a lot of for my number one, Chargers. You could go to Jim Harbaugh route, which is, of course, what's been the most smoke out there. You can also go somebody like Vrabel. You can also go. It's tough because when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, I feel like Jim Harbaugh would probably be the best pairing for him. It's just, does he want to go there? Is he ready to go? Like, we still don't know what he's going to do, so it's tough to really put him in there. So, but I would say for the Chargers, probably Jim Harbaugh. Washington, that's another tough one because you really it's you get to completely start over and mold it and how you want to do it. Belichick is a person that will probably enjoy that route as long as he has the right pieces on the offensive side that will help him. But honestly, I don't have a clear front one that I like for Washington. I mean, they're interviewing everybody. They're putting their hat. Them and the Panthers are putting their hat for it. We've seen it, the past couple of days where they're putting their request to interview everybody. You have Ben Johnson, of course. You have Slowick. Mike McDonald. All these coordinators that are looking for a shot too. So with Belichick still being on the Patriots, I don't want to put him as an option right now. So I'll probably go Ben Johnson with the opportunity to have his own quarterback in there with the number 2 pick. And I would probably think that's a pretty good matchup there. And for the Falcons, I have fucking no idea. I have no idea, man. We don't know how much Arthur Blank and Rich McKay are going to choose this compared to Terry and Terry's vision.
It's probably gonna be fully Arthur Blank.
Exactly, and Terry's vision for the roster. You saw from his press conference that it's their decision pretty much, and they're gonna run this ship. What that's going to lead to is hard to know. I mean, they haven't had terrible picks in the past. Of course, they had a couple of really bad ones that they talked about at their press conference. But they had some. Dan Quinn made it, to the Super Bowl. Mike Smith was good for years, and of course, Mora. So I don't know. I don't know for the Falcons, to be honest with you. I think they should go offense instead of defense, though. thinking a guy like, and we talked about it, Frank Smith, that's down in Miami. We talked Bobby Slowick, that's with Houston. If he has an opportunity, if Bobby comes in and says, let's move up to that number 1 pick, possibly, if it's available, let me go get my guy, and we can do it like that. But those are the 2 options that I see are very clear right now, not including Belichick, which a lot of smoke is out there about that too, which I don't necessarily like, but it's probably going to happen.
What say you, Chris?
For the Chargers, I think I said this before. They do not need a defensive coach, so I'm not going with a defensive head coach. Looking at maybe like a Ben Johnson. Think that'll be great for them. Seattle, I mean, it'll be a weird situation, but I know some people are thinking, Dan Quinn, because just the familiarity. But the only issue with that is I'm pretty sure with them, making Pete Carroll go into an advisory role, they're trying to maybe tail away from that kind of like thought process, because since he did come from Pete Carroll. So trying to think who good for them. I'm gonna come back to them. The Falcons, Joe Brady. I like what he's done so far with Josh Allen. Their offense kind of turned around a little bit. So I think he might be a good sneaky pick for them, for the Falcons to be a head coach. But for them, as far as they most of their talent they've been drafted on offense, so they need to figure out somebody who's going to come in there and actually maximize everything that they can do. So that's why I chose Joe Brady for the Falcons.
Okay. So for my first pick, obviously I had Washington as the best available position. I'm going with Jim Harbaugh. I think that is the person that Washington used to be a powerhouse in the NFL. Obviously, Washington is a strong city, just universally, in the state. In the country. And I think that with them looking for strong leadership, and somebody to take a strong direction moving forward, I think that gives him a perfect opportunity. He's already got the receivers. He's already got the start, like I mentioned, on the defensive side. And then he has his slew of picks to go to. Hopefully he doesn't make a stupid decision and get JJ McCarthy, which I doubt he would. For my second pick with the Chargers, that's where I would go with Ben Johnson. Believe that getting an offensive coach to be with Justin Herbert, to be able to draw things up, not only just an offensive coach, but not only do you want to make sure that you have a good, offensive coach, you want to make sure that you have an offensive coach that is good at development of the quarterback, but also good at a play designer and a play caller and play sequencer. At this point, that's why I don't think Bobby Slowick, I don't think that Joe Brady, either of them right now are ready for a coaching role or a head coaching position, because I don't know Bobby Slowick for sure. I'm not sure if he's 100% there in terms of his play calling. I think that might have a lot more to do with CJ Stroud than him, but
Might be. Boy, nice.
So that's where I would go with Ben Johnson. Obviously, we've seen what he's been able to do with Jared Goff in that offense. And then with the pieces that they already have, or whatever they decide to do, I think that he'd be able to help QJ a bunch there as well. And then since I mentioned both Seattle and Falcons, I'll give a position for both. I'm gonna go with the easy fit in Seattle and going with DQ. I think they would like to keep the continuity there, and I do think that we look at Pete Carroll as more defensive coach. But the defensive side of the ball has actually been what's struggling. If you really kind of think about it, Pete Carroll, has actually been better as like a quarterback whisperer in recent years, or just in general over his whole career. Because if you think about it, obviously Carson Palmer in college, Matt Leinart, those were two guys that went high, that were drafted high. Mark Sanchez was drafted high. Obviously we've seen the difference between Russell Wilson in Seattle and Denver. And then Geno, obviously, with his career, even Drew Lock. So, that is something to pay attention to. I think DQ could help solidify the defensive side, while you still have Pete Carroll there to help advise on the offensive side. And then with the Falcons, I think this is a no-brainer here. Mike Vrabel. That's exactly the type of person that Rich McKay and Arthur Blank, they love those Patriot guys. They continue to go after the same guys. Obviously, most people might be like, oh, Arthur Smith, blah, blah, blah. He'll probably be back in Atlanta in a couple of years. Just pay attention to that.
Yikes. That's
As an
nasty
offensive
work.
coach. But Mike Vrabel, definitely, I think he makes sense in terms. He's also in a position where he is going to be the guy that would be cool with going with a Ryan Tannehill or a Kirk Cousins and one of those veteran quarterbacks, and trying to, or even if you want to say Justin Fields, and trying to make things work with that, as well as trying to keep it going as opposed to rebuilding. So I think it makes sense for Mike Vrabel to go there. So we'll be seeing. It'll be interesting,
man. It's a lot that's going to happen over the next 2 weeks to a month.
But the biggest of them all, the biggest opening of them all, on the college ranks.
Yeah.
We got Nick Saban retiring today from Alabama. I mean, what a bombshell. You got Pete Carroll stepping down, obviously, legendary coach, which seems like it's probably going to be the end of his head coaching career. And then Nick Saban in the same day. We're still waiting on the Belichick news, as we've mentioned a few times. So, I mean, that would be insane for them to drop that today if they are going to move off of it, which seemingly right now it doesn't seem that way. But in terms of Nick Saban retiring, man, how'd you guys feel in hearing the news?
Totally unexpected. I mean, of course, we talked about it before we hopped on here. Totally unexpected, to go out like this too, on like kind of the losing side, to go out with a failed 4th and short from the goal line with Jalen Muro. I guess he didn't want to run it back with him. It's tough though. I mean, you have a 16-year career there.
17, I believe, actually.
17 at Bama, 6 national championships. I mean, the man is the go-to college football coaches. I mean, it's
9 totally SEC titles.
Yeah, it's totally acceptable. You understand. I mean, he is 72 years old. He's old. Going through it is a lot. The whole process is a lot. So I'm not surprised on that front, but I didn't think it would happen this season. I don't think anybody did. It's very quiet about this too. Like, nobody even thought like, oh, okay, he might retire after this season. Like, nobody thought that going into this playoffs. So, Chris, how'd you feel?
Shocker, man. I mean, it kind of gives the feel of like, not saying he is, but I'm just saying like somebody you like a player you done grew up and knew, like playing all throughout you growing up, and this, oh, it's time for him to pack it up. It's like, I remember when he was coaching the Dolphins, like back then, and then to the transition to Alabama and being the dominant force that he was for all them years. And it's like, you in back of your mind, I don't think it'd have been ever a time where it's like, oh yeah, I knew he was retiring now. But it was just like, damn, he retired. Like, it just out the blue. Like, nobody
out the blue.
He lost in playoffs. Okay, he's gonna come back next year. That's automatic thinking. It was, at least for me, I never was like, is it close to wrapping up? No, he's just gonna come back next year. It's just gonna be the same old Alabama. But just hearing that, that's crazy.
Yes.
And their title odds plummeted, as you can imagine.
I could believe
it. I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy time, and excuse me. You have to wonder if the changes with the NIL, and seemingly how, with the transfer portal and everything, like how everybody's just hopping in the transfer portal. It seems like, people are flipping commitments left and right every hour.
Yeah.
You wonder if that, like, the hustle of the recruiting aspect is something that really is like at 72 years old, you're like, all right, I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Before you got on, that's what I was kind of saying to Kaz. I felt like that's probably the obvious thing, because it's like he lost his leverage at this point. Like, when somebody can easily go to any college that they want to and make money, like, that changes the landscape. And the fact that Georgia has been dominant these past years, like, he's just losing just leverage. Like, they used to be on top of the recruiting class every year, and they're still up there. But it's like, your competition is not just SEC no more. It's wide now. And like you said, maybe just the hustling of trying to, you can't get to everybody now, and then the ones you get to, you gotta hit on them.
Yeah, it's tough to add. I mean, your incentives with this NIL, the incentives that got him a lot of those big recruits back in the day, like these guys are going to Nebraska. These guys are going to going to the Big Ten, going to like to make that same kind of money that they would make, you know, and really do well. I mean, you got college players making 10, 11, 12, some making 20 million in NIL deals. It's honestly
that's a little inflated BS, but
it's still a lot of money regardless. And it's tough, you know, it's tough to compete with that if you're, you know.
I will say, so I feel like that's been the same. You know, a lot of people's sentiment is the idea that the NIL and different things, but I do think that a lot of people have misconceptions in terms of the amount of money that, you know, that it's been reported. I think this past year the most that somebody made in NIL was like $3 million, and that was like Shador. You know, so which is why all the conversation when people every year we're gonna have this conversation. It's like, should they go to the NFL or should they stay and get the NIL money? Always go to the NFL. You're gonna make more money.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with
Always
that.
Always go to the NFL. But also in terms of that, you know, I also think people in a way kind of overstate how important the money is. Everybody's going to have that money. The money's going to be available everywhere. But what is your development and what does that look like for you? Because I mean, they're always going to be competing with the Georgia, Texases of the world. But you know, as we saw in the national championship, I've seen people say like it's a leveling play, like it's kind of leveling the playing field. I mean, if you guys watch the national championship, Michigan versus Washington, did that look level to you in terms of the D-line and O-line play? I mean, we've obviously seen the questions about Colorado. I mean, you know, even though they got all these athletes, that O-line D-line play was different. And you know, we saw that with Georgia and TCU last year. The O-line D-line play was real different. You know, so there's going to be a long time before. I don't know if it'll ever be level, because at the end of the day, like people say, like you got these niggas in Alabama, in the South, and Georgia that's eating
cornbread brothers.
What do they say that they in California and the West Coast eating quinoa and acai bowls, where in the South they out pushing and working in the yard and eating chicken and meat and potatoes. So, you know, we're going to see about that. But it is crazy. Thus far, I believe that the front runner for the job, or the expected front runner, is Dan Lanning from Oregon. Obviously, he has Saban and Kirby Smart roots. And so that'll be interesting. Do you guys think that, obviously, the conversation is going to come up? His name is always going to come up in these situations. Do y'all think that Deion Sanders will or should be a candidate for this role in Alabama?
It'll be good. It'll be good. Yeah. It'll be a good story, but no, I don't think he should go there at all. Mm-hmm. I think he should as of right now, I think he should stay where he's at. Especially with what you're talking about, what you're trying to build. You can't be that coach that jumps around like that. I feel like it's way too early. But
now he can't.
I mean, he gave y'all some good years though, man. He gave y'all some good years.
Man, look,
it's a different ball game though. Nah, you good.
I think. See, in my opinion, I'm like, the way I feel about it is nobody like you said, nobody expected this role to come open. This is the cream of the crop role in college football. I don't think anybody how people were a little frustrated with him going from Jackson to Colorado.
You think they would have understood Alabama?
If he would have went to Alabama, you gotta be all right, bro. Like, all right, bro. Like, you see them dogs. Look, come on now. Like, you see these dogs over here. Come on now. So I don't know.
I give you. I thought you were about to say something else, but no. Yeah, they would have shut up. They be like, okay, it's Alabama. Like,
it's Alabama.
It's like nobody heard of Colorado. They're like, Colorado? Hey, how many?
Yeah. Well, they won one game last season. What are you going there for? I get that. Yeah. But at the same time, though, like, it would be very smart business-wise for them. They're probably going to lose a lot of, they're going to lose a lot of big recruits. Of course, the transfer portal is opening back up because of the coaching change, and people are going to leave.
There are going to be some people that'll leave for sure. They'll be smart to go ahead and make a decision fast.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. Yeah. That's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah, they'll be smart to go ahead and make a decision fast. Obviously, I mean, Alabama still their facilities compared to everywhere else is still top tier. So some of them guys are gonna get in the portal and start getting on the business. And, okay,
the grass ain't always greener.
Let's head back to Tuscaloosa, man. Like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. Nah, that's fair. That's fair.
But man, what? I mean,
yeah, it's a shock, man.